1% for Art program is a local law that we've had here in Anchorage in some form dating all the way back to 1978. And in general, it requires that when we're building new things, 1% of the construction costs is set aside for public art.
So the public art program is operated by one staff physician as myself. The position is titled Curator of Public Art. So the curator operates the program, and that entails, essentially, it's a museum without walls. So it's everything that a museum would entail.
It's important to me that public art, represents the history of a place and also represents its evolution and its change.
There had been a somewhat troubled push to rebuild Spenard Road. And as part of that program, a sweetener for the community was that art was installed along the roadway. So if you have been in the Spenard area, you've seen the Spam can, which says Spenard. And that was not actually required by the 1% for Art program, but it was so well received that we realized that it created an invitation for us to say, well, why shouldn't that be part of our overall approach and program? And so at the time, we made a few changes to the very long-standing 1% for Art requirement. First, that we said the kind of project that could potentially trigger a 1% for Art program or project, that aperture would open. So whereas before it had been schools, municipal buildings, now we would also consider roads or trails or other linear features. And second, that the actual triggering of the art didn't necessarily have to come attached to the particular facility that was being constructed. So we're here today on Ship Creek Trail next to the Water is Life installation, in part because this was an art installation that was funded and paid for by a construction project that the Anchorage Water and Wastewater Utility did, where the determination of the program was the real impact and the benefit for the community would be better if the art were relocated here.
I think that public art creates a moment for people, something that stops you, makes you think about what that artist or what that collective of artists, were thinking about, and also who decided, for that art to be there. And I think that you really want to see public art that really makes us think about how somebody interpreted that space. As Alaskans in general, our story is so important, and I think that public art can help us tell that story.
I think that the community has heard in several different forums that the placemaking that comes from public art is worth more than just the dollar figures on the page, and that having these local icons gives you something that you can dream up of on being in an Anchorage postcard, or even when you're given directions that you turn left at the walker on the street on 4th Avenue. And I think as we move forward that we'll just continue to find these opportunities to double down in those areas.
I really hope that public art continues in this trajectory of really focusing on understanding of each other's stories and understanding what this place means to all of us in all of our different experiences.
There are so many things. I feel like a kid in a candy shop in this role as the curator of public art.
So if I was talking to someone who didn't understand how Anchorage has prioritized public art, I think the first thing I might do is give them the list of the 400 plus artworks that we have already installed as part of the 1% for Art program, and then hook them up with one of the walking tours so that they can really see it and come to understand the investment we've made so far and the investments we're going to continue to make in the future.